Hey everyone, welcome to First Capital Online. My name's Tyler and I'm one of the pastors on staff here. And we are so glad that you decided to join us in worship from your computer screen this morning. If you have never joined us before, if you're new to First Capital Online, please go to www.firstcapitalchristian.org/welcome and fill out that short form. And I promise you that the gift that we are going to send you in the mail is going to be worth filling out that form. We want to get to know you. But listen, First Capital Online is awesome. It's even better in person when you experience us right here at this physical location. So we want to invite you to join us next week. We have services on Saturday at 5 and Sunday at 9 and 10:45, and we hope to see you there. We are continuing on in our summer staycation. We've got 2 weeks left, and this week is the last week for World Record Weekend. We're trying to get the most toothpaste tubes ever in one line in our parking lot. We're about to start worship. I'm really excited about this service. I'm glad you're joining us. First Capital Online starts right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to First Capital Christian Church. We are so glad you're here. Will you stand up and we're going to sing together. Sing with me. Your light shines through my darkness, all darkness, and like fire it consumes all my fears and my failures, and your grace overwhelms like a flood.
We have some awesome things coming up. Take a look at this video.
Hey guys, my name is Sarah. Welcome to First Capital Christian Church. You're watching The Loop. We have some pretty great things happening around here, so before we move on in the service, I want to go over a few of them. Next weekend will be the last week of summer staycation, and we saved the best for last. Check out this preview of our staycation celebration, Purpose Weekend.
How to come up with a new purpose statement. Step 1, get some ideas. Step 2, imagine how everyone will receive those ideas. Step 3, come up with more ideas. Not bad. Step 4, come up with more ideas. Yep, that's even worse. Step 5, come up with a good idea. Yes, much better. Now test it. Test it again. Now live it. Good. And that's how you come up with a new purpose statement. First Capital Christian Church, helping people find and follow Jesus.
Purpose Weekend is going to be awesome. Plan on coming and bringing a friend. Parents, we have an awesome children's ministry that has great programming each weekend. This week at 9 and 10:45, our children are meeting in the Student Center with Safari Steve and Silly Safaris. He will be teaching the kids about animals and Jesus. If you have a child elementary age or below, now would be a good time to send them over. Fall Down on the Fairgrounds is coming up soon, September 16th to be exact, and we need your help. Volunteer signups are in the lobby. Listen up later in the service as Pastor Ed gives us more details on how you can be a part of it. For any new family, we want you to sign up for Pasta with the Pastors, taking place next weekend. It is a great way to learn more about our church and get connected. Sign up at the Resource Center today. Help us out by sharing our online campus from Facebook and filling out your connection card. My name is Sarah, and you are in the loop.
Well, we hope you take advantage of all those things that are coming up. We have some exciting things, so make sure that you check out our website for more events and things that you will want to be involved. Well, hey, we are so glad that you're here with us this weekend. My name is Matt. I'm one of the pastors here, and if this is your first time, we just want to say a special welcome to you, or if you're joining us online, we're glad that you guys are here. We have a special gift just for you, and so if you will, fill out your connection card that is inside of your bulletin and take that to our guest services, which is right outside in the lobby. Ed will be there after the service. And if you turn that in, we have a gift that we would love to give you. Well, hey, we have a couple people joining us this weekend, visiting with our worship band from Indianapolis. And so they're excited to be here to worship with you guys. And so will you stand up, find some people around you that you don't know, tell them where you're from, what town are you from, and we're going to continue on in our service. Hey, and if you're joining us online, thank you so much for being here. Everything that we do on our online campus exists to help you find and follow Jesus. We would love to connect with you too. Fill out the form that is right below. We have a gift specifically for you. Hey, drop us a comment. Tell us where you are watching from, what town you're watching from, and we would love to connect with you on our social media platform. Thanks for being here. All right, church, let's sing together. I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met. Yeah. I was breathing, but I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, but you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing, and your love is the air that I'm breathing. I had a future, my eyes are open when you call my name. Yeah, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Come on, lift up a shout of praise. Thank you, Jesus.
I know you know this one. Sing with me. I stand before you now. The greatness of your renown. I have heard of the majesty and wonder of you, King of heaven. In humility I bow, and as
what's happening in our world, I'm reminded that there's nothing new under the sun. God, that you are sovereign and nothing takes you off guard, nothing surprises you. But God, we are human and we are weak and we are broken and we are sinful, and without you, we are not brave. We're cowards who hide in the shadows of our shame and hide in the shadows of our fear. But Father, would you make us brave? Would you instill in us the confidence that comes from the victory of the cross? Jesus, would we be brave as we walk these streets, as we go out into our neighborhoods, into our communities, into our jobs and our families? Would you give us the bravery to conquer those things that cause fear? The victory and the honor and the glory and the power is yours. Everything we do is for your name's sake. We love you and we thank you for everything that you're doing in our lives and in this church. It's in your Son's holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
Right now, in our auditorium, we are taking offering. Now, this is a time that we worship just like we do through singing and through preaching, but it's a little bit different. This is a time that you take ownership and are challenged to give back to God what He has given to you. Now, this summer, we've experienced incredible growth here at First Capital, and our giving has been just one of those pieces that have really grown. We've had 48 new families start giving this summer and take the challenge of giving back to God what He deserves. And we hope that you could be one of those families. If you would, go to www.firstcapitalchristian.org and click on the Give button to join us in giving. Or you can text the amount that you want to give to the number below me on the screen. As we continue to worship, just know that you can do this at any time and it will still work, and we encourage you to do so.
In the quiet We're starting a new series today that's very closely tied to what we talked about last week. Now, if you remember last week, I thought I would help you remember what we talked about last week. And we talked about that we gravitate toward places where we are accepted. Some of you looked at me really odd when I pulled this out. I don't know why that would concern you at all. If you weren't here last week, you have no idea what I'm talking about. If you were here last week, you're thankful that I just laid that cup back on the table right now. But last week we said that people gravitate toward places where they're accepted. They gravitate toward people that welcome them. And then we said that, in fact, that acceptance trumps interests. It's more important to be accepted because we have this innate need to be wanted. And we want to be wanted so badly that acceptance trumps interest. In other words, we will be with people and we'll hang with people, and even though we don't share common interest, if they will accept us. In other words, if the only people that accept you in the high school are the ones that do drugs, then you'll hang out with the ones that do drugs because it's that important to you. I don't know who in the room has said and experienced smoking, but if and when you were a smoker, why did you start? Because you like the flavor? Because it tastes good? Why did you smoke? You smoked because that's what those that you were with did, and you wanted to be accepted by them. Now that leads us to this. Whoever accepts us shapes our life. We give them permission to shape us. We let them in and we let them shape what we like and what we don't like and where we go and what we do. They shape our attitudes and our actions and our values. They will even help us decide what is right and what is wrong. So that brings the question, who have you given permission to shape your life? Who have you allowed into your world and said, you have permission to speak to me? As you think back through your life, some of us will immediately think of people that we regret giving that kind of freedom in our lives because they've led us down some bad paths into some bad decisions in our life. But some of us, immediately our mind go to good places because the people that accepted us took us along to good places with them. Now that takes me to another question. Whose life are you shaping? Who is it that you have accepted and you've welcomed into your world? And by letting you into their world, they have given you permission to speak into their life. I think that this is the place that our generation has failed the most. We've not done a great job of coming alongside those that have come behind us and pouring ourselves into them and influencing them like we could have. Now, I know that there are those that are immediately going to push back and they're going to say, well, I'm not qualified, I don't have time, I couldn't do that, I wouldn't know what to do and all that. But you just save your objections and hear me out. Listen, I believe that we have a moral obligation to accept people into our world and then to shape them and prepare them for what lies ahead. In 1 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, Paul's writing to the Christians there, brand new believers in Thessalonica. And he says, we cared for you the way a mother cares for her children. We loved you dearly, not content just to pass on the message. We wanted to give you our hearts. And we did. He said, we gave you more than just information. What we did was we intentionally opened our hearts to reveal who we are on the inside and to share with you those important parts of who we are. Paul said, we loved you like a mother. Then down in verse 11, he says, with each of you, you were like, we were a father with a child, holding your hand, whispering encouragement, showing you step by step how to live well before God. These weren't his children, but he treated them like they were. And he came alongside them, and he loved them, and he nurtured them, and he coached them, and he coaxed them to showing them how to do life. And we're supposed to do the same thing. Each of us should be pouring ourselves into someone else. Now, if that sounds like a monumental task, if that sounds like it's really difficult, what I want to do today is show you how that can happen and show you how that can happen in your life. I am indebted to Andy Stanley for pouring into my life. I have given him permission to come into my life, and he has. And he has spoken into my life, and he shared some stuff that I want to share with you today. That said, here's where I want to go. Your life is like a treasure chest. Each one is unique. Each one has your stories and your experiences. And out of those stories and experiences come insights and perceptions and wisdom and knowledge that you have accumulated over the time of your life. And your story, your life, is worth a lot more than you think it is. You have underestimated your net worth. Let me show you what I mean. Let's start with your marriage. Okay? I have with me Mr. and Mrs. Mugg. Okay? And your marriage, and you're sitting here, and it's immediately, and when I say that you have experiences in your marriage, you say, well, our marriage wasn't so hot. It wasn't anything that I think anybody would want to model after, and I would say, exactly. That's my point. You know exactly how hard it's been. You know where the rough times were for you. You know when things got wrong, and you remember those times. You remember how frustrated you got. You remember how hurt you've been. God never wants to waste a hurt. And you can speak out of those experiences to other people. And you're saying, well, Randy, I don't just have one. I've got multiple. I've got another marriage. And you can speak out of that. You can talk about divorce. And you can talk about what leads to it and how it felt as you were processing that and how it felt after you came out of that. You can speak to the pain, and you can speak to the hurt, and you can speak to the baggage that you carry on after that into the next relationship. You've got a treasure chest full of things that you can share. You can talk about your parenting. And you can talk about your parenting. And you say, well, I don't know how well I did with that. Exactly. That's the point. It's tough, it's hard, and sometimes we don't know how we're doing when we're going through it. But you know what it was like when you were trying to help your child set boundaries and your child kept pushing against those boundaries no matter where you set them? And you remember what that was like. You remember what it was like when you loved that child and yet you had to let them go. You know what it was like the first day of kindergarten. You know what it was like the first day they went to when they went away to college. You know what it was like when you walked her down the aisle and you gave her to another man. And you can speak to that because you've been there. Some of you can speak about what it's like to have a prodigal, to have one and you love that child so deeply. You love that child so much, and yet whatever you've done, it didn't work. And somebody needs to know that you've been through that too, because right now they think they're the only person in the world. that's going through that. And you can talk about the times that you wish you had a mulligan. You wish you had a do-over. You wish you could just, if I could have relived my life and run it back to that moment, oh, would I have parented differently right then? Oh, if I could have that one moment back. And you can speak to them about that because you've been there. Maybe you can speak to the pain of a lost child. You know the heartache. And you have a treasure that's covered in tears from losing that child. You've got things in your treasure chest that you've never shared, that you could have. You remember the time when they asked you to lead? And you said, I'm no leader. I can't lead. That's not who I am. That's not and they talked you into it anyway. Do you remember what that was like? And how did you figure out that, it worked? I don't know how it worked, but it worked. And how did you figure out that you could lead a little bit? And what skills does it take to lead? And how did you learn to build a team? What did that look like? And how did you learn to manage criticism that comes with being a leader? You remember that? Somebody needs to hear that. There are people that need to know. Then you can talk about how to manage money. You say, oh, I'm not very good at that one. Yeah, neither am I. We could talk about how to manage money, and you say, well, I don't know that I've got anything to say. Well, let me tell you, I don't think that I do either till I sat down with a 20-year-old. And now I suddenly realize that I know a lot more about it than I thought I knew about it, right? Because you start sitting down with some of these people and you realize that they don't know what you know. They have not processed how do we make it work so that we can get through the month. And how could you ever save? And they need to know that credit cards, just because you get an application in the mail doesn't make it a good thing. And they need to know that if you don't save before you start to spend, there'll never be anything to save when you get through spending. And they need to know that life goes a lot better if you pay cash rather than credit. I was 60 years old before I knew that my parents never made a house payment after my dad was 35 years old. I didn't know that. He didn't tell me. But can you imagine how your life would have been different if you had had your house paid off at 35? Now, they lived in 3 more houses. They paid cash every time. Can you imagine what that would be like? I didn't know until a couple years earlier than that the last car payment my parents made was when I was 1 year old. That they never went into debt for those things. Why didn't somebody tell me that? Why didn't somebody tell me how to do that? Oh, I wish somebody had opened their treasure chest and shared that information with me. Oh, you say, I don't know what I've got to share. Here's one we've all got. You can talk about those fights you've been through, those conflicts you've been through. You can talk about those times when you had those knockdown dragouts, right? We've all been there. We've all done that. How do you get through that? Now, you can talk about the scars that came out of that. You can talk about the body shots that you've taken. How did you deal with that, with those hits? How did you come through? How did it affect you? Are you one that runs away from a battle, or are you one that runs toward it? How do you manage that? What did you learn about yourself as you went through those things? People need to know how to manage a conflict. Oh. You could talk about all those medical challenges that you've had. You can talk about the accident, how that has affected your life. And you can talk about the day that you got the diagnosis for your spouse and how that impacted you. You can talk about your cancer. Well, don't waste your cancer. You can talk about how you've learned to compensate and how you've learned to cope with what you deal with every day. There are those that need to know that. There are people in your life that are struggling there, and they need to know. Then you think you're the only one that's ever had questions about your faith? You think nobody else ever had doubts? Nobody else ever questioned whether this is all for real? You think you're the only one that Christians have abused and Christians have been hypocritical around? How do you deal with those people? And then what about your sin? You know which one. That sin that has just been at you as long as you can remember. What about that one? You think somebody else couldn't benefit learning that? It's interesting what you find in a treasure chest. But let me just tell you this, every treasure chest has skeletons. They're buried down deep. But we've all got them. We've all got those experiences in our past that we don't want anyone to ever know about. We've all got those painful places that we regret every day. And yet I want to tell you, God doesn't want to waste your pain. God wants to use your pain. He wants to, and someday, someone will need to know. Someday, it'll be of benefit to someone for them to know about your abortion. As painful as it is, someday, it'll help some other mother to know about how you failed your child at that critical point. Someday, somebody can learn from the affair you had. Or that awful thing that you said that as soon as the words left your lips, you've regretted it for a lifetime. Or that incident. Or that accident. Yeah. Somebody needs to know. They need to know what you've gone through, where it's taken you. Your life is a treasure chest of stories and experiences, memories. And they've come together to create for you quite a collection of knowledge, quite a collection of wisdom. It comes together in a way that you have some peculiar insights and understandings that can help other people along the way. You may think that it's just ordinary, but I want to tell you it's immensely important to someone else. So here's what I want to ask. What are you going to do with your treasure? What are you going to do with your treasure? Most people just bury theirs. Most people just die and it goes with them. But I want to tell you, your treasure can change somebody's life. What you have can make all the difference. The value of a life is always determined by how much of it was given away. The value of your life will be determined by how much of it you give away. The older you are, the more you have to give. It's time to start sharing the wealth. Jesus said over and over and over again that we will be held accountable for the resources that he has put at our disposal. We're going to be held accountable for that which we have had entrusted to us. The Bible just says it over and over and over again. One of those places is in Matthew chapter 25. In Matthew chapter 25, the NIV calls it the parable of the bags of gold. The Message calls it the story of investments. I like that. I think that fits where we're trying to go with this today. It's the story of a man who's going on an extended trip. And so before he leaves town, he calls in 3 of his employees and he gives them responsibilities. To the first employee, he gives 5 bags of gold. Listen, folks, that's millions and millions of dollars. 5 bags of gold. To the second one, he gives 2 bags of gold. And to the third, he gives 1 bag of gold. But that 1 bag of gold still, today's money, would roughly figure over $1 million. A lot of money. Then he leaves town. And he goes away. He didn't tell them how long he would be gone. He just basically said, run my business while I'm gone. Do what I would do with it while I'm gone. Now, when I hear this story, immediately we try to put ourselves in it, and we know we're not the guy that's going away with all this money, so we got to be one of them back here, right? And so we figured it out pretty quick which one we are. We're the 1 bag guy, right? We're a 1 bagger, right? I don't have a lot. I don't have much. I haven't been given a whole lot to work with, right? We rarely see ourselves with a lot. But have you ever considered how much money will pass through your hands in a lifetime? Have you ever stopped to think how much money will pass through your hands in a lifetime? I mean, how much money passes through your hands in a week, a month, a year? Now multiply that out through a lifetime. Let's say that the average person makes $35,000 a year. Okay? And that averages out at $35,000 a year for a lifetime. That's $1.5 million right there. The average American household, it's 2 to 10 million goes through your hands. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that nuts? Now, back to our story. What's fascinating is that each man went about managing that money the way they thought that the employer would do it. They each went about it trying to say, well, now, what would he do in this situation? How would I manage this if I were him? And so the first 2, they invested. They took the resources that he had left with them and they invested it. Now, I need to tell you, when you read the end of the story, it looks to me like they took some risk. There was some risk engaged in this, but I want to tell you what else. There's a lot of hard work involved in this. Now, the third guy, he takes a completely different approach. He says, what would he do? I know what he'll do. And he put it in a bank account. He put it in a checking account that didn't draw hardly any interest at all. In fact, it drew just enough interest to pay the fees. So it was a break even for him. And he kept it there where it would be safe. Now down in verse 19 it says, after a long time. Let me translate this, and I don't think that this is too bad. After a lifetime, all right? After a lifetime, the master of those servants returned, and he settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5, and he said, Master, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. I love what he says. He says, see, look at what I did. Look at what I did. Let me show you what I did. He says, you gave me 5 bags of gold, and look, I got 5 more. 5 more bags of gold. I tried to do what I thought you would do. I tried to think like you think. I have been watching you. I've been studying you. And I started thinking about how would you do this and what would you do? And I just tried to do what I thought you would do. And look what happened. His master said, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. Did you hear? Whoa. 5 bags of gold, this is millions and millions of dollars. He says, you've been faithful with a few things. Millions? I guess when you're as rich as this master is, if you're as rich as he is, it's just pocket change. He said, you've been faithful with a few things. I'm going to put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. He says, congratulations on your promotion. Congratulations on your promotion. Come on, you've made me very, very happy today. I am a happy man. Second guy comes in, same thing. Different numbers, same approach, same result. Then we come to one bagger. You remember one bagger? One bagger says, now, first of all, what a horrible way to start a conversation. He really needs some lessons in tact, all right? Here's the way he starts the conversation. First thing he says is, I knew you were a hard man. Oh, that's never a good way to start. I knew you were a hard man. Wait a minute, if you knew he was a hard man, then why didn't you produce? If you knew he was a hard man, then why didn't you, set himself up? He says, I knew you were a hard man, so I was afraid. And what did he do? He says, I buried my bag. I hid it. I hid it where nobody could find it. And listen, I put my bag where nobody could use it. I put my bag where it wasn't any good to anybody. You hear what the employer said? Get this. He said, you want me to boil this down for you? Let me boil this down. Let me make this crystal clear. You're lazy. You're lazy. That's what you are. You're not going to use what I gave you? You're lazy. And let me just tell you how it works out for you. You refuse to invest, you refuse to use what I gave you. Not only are you losing it, but I want you to get out. Just get out. You're not welcome here. No promotion for you. Get out of town. And I have a question for you. What are you going to do with your treasure? I mean, that is the real question, isn't it? What are you going to do with what's in your box? I have been a blessed man because I have, through my life, had men who have poured themselves into me. I have had men who have accepted me into their world. In accepting me, I allowed them to speak into me, and they did. I'd start with my father, my dad. I had the good fortune to have a good father. I want to tell you, life goes a lot better if you choose your parents well. I'm just going to tell you, that really does help. But Dad taught me a lot about how to think, how to process, and how to work through problems. And Dad told me of mistakes that he had made. And we talked through some of the mistakes that he had made and what he would have done different if he had it to do over. And then we had some work experiences together where we just worked along side by side, and I could watch him work and I could ask questions. And I could learn from him. Ken Baldwin was the senior minister when I was a young and naive youth minister. And I didn't know squat. And Ken had this pastoral heart that was a lot bigger than his chest. And Ken began to teach me how to care for people. Now, you already know that doesn't come natural for me, but you think it's bad now. You should have seen me before he got a hold of me. Because Ken just poured himself into me trying to teach me how to do ministry. Jim McKenzie was the executive vice president at Kentucky Christian when I was the dean of students. And Jim took a particular liking to me. I don't know why. But he would bring me into his office and he began to teach me how kingdom work and business merged, and how to manage money to be effective, and how to manage teams, and how to build teams, and how to forecast what was laying out ahead. For the last 14 years, not only have I been blessed, but you have really been blessed because of the way that Steve Pattison has poured into my life. And Steve has saved us from a whole lot of problems through the years that I probably would have gotten us into if Steve hadn't coached a little bit. And he has really, really blessed me. I've been blessed because of men that were willing to pour into my life. As I was writing this and talking to Steve about it, he said, you be sure and point out that all 4 of those men were flawed. In other words, you don't have to be perfect. It's not a prerequisite to be perfect before you can pour into somebody else. All you've got to do is care. All you've got to do is care. And now I want to challenge you to do for someone else what people have done for you. I want to challenge you to step out of your comfort zone and intentionally begin to use those experiences that you have accumulated to make somebody else better than they were. The term for this is mentoring. Mentoring is intentionally coming alongside another person and what I call coaching them up. Coaching them up, what I mean by that is simply you come alongside and you first understand where they are, and you understand where it is they want to be or where they could be that they may not even be able to see it themselves. And then you begin to help them with the process of getting from where they are to where they could be. And that comes along with some instruction and some inspiration and some perspiration as you come alongside and you're there. It means being available to them to answer questions and to talk to them. Everyone in this room ought to be mentoring somebody. You ought to have somebody right now that you can name that you are intentionally pouring your life into. At First Capital, the ideal path begins before a person ever steps foot inside this building. It is you identifying a person out there that needs what you have found. And you begin to build that relationship with that person. And you begin to love on that person. And you begin to share with that person. And as you begin to build that relationship, you get to a place in that person's life where they respect you enough to respect what you respect. And it brings you to a place where you finally can say, come and see what I have found. Come and see what has made the biggest difference in my life. And you get them to come to church with you. And then you get them to come back. And then as they begin to develop an interest in Jesus because of the life that you've lived and the way you've been there for them and the model that you have shared with them and because of the other influences that you have brought into their life along with you. And this thing moves along this path until finally comes the day when you and your friend step into that water over there and your friend gives his or her life to Jesus Christ. And they close their eyes and they lean back and they go under the water and they come up out of the water and they open their eyes and the first thing they see is the smile on the person who's committed to go the rest of the way on their faith journey with them. They see that person who is committed to walk with them and say, I'm not leaving you here, we're going to go on. And we're going to move along on this faith journey. Now, some of you are out there right now and you're saying, well, that's not my story. That's not the way it happened for me. I found this church fall down on the fairgrounds and nobody was there for me. Or I found this church online and I've kind of made this pilgrimage all by myself. And I know that there are those that's the case. And so what I want to do is I want to challenge some of you. I'm looking to create a team of people who are willing to meet people at the baptistry and say, I don't know you yet, but I want to. And I want to be here and be available to you to help you as you start this walk from this day forward. And I'm looking for some people that'll just say, I'm willing to spend the next 2 months helping that person get started on this faith journey. In fact, I am looking for a group of people. I'm looking for a group of people. I'm going to teach a class early in September. It's going to be one time, one night. That's it. But I want to teach a class on this very thing. And what I want to do is I want to challenge as many people as will to say, I'm willing to go back and I'm going to grab somebody who is a believer. And I'm going to just allow that person into my world. It's already somebody that I have a relationship with, but now I'm going to be intentional about opening up my treasure chest and sharing my experiences so that they don't have to suffer through the mistakes that I made. They get to make a whole new set of mistakes. But I'm going to try to bring people and try to teach you how to teach faith catalysts and teach you how to expose people to faith catalysts as they come along. Because I think that every one of us needs somebody pouring into our lives. We look at our lives and we see a box. Just an old box. But it's really not a box. It's a treasure chest. We look in there and we say, this stuff isn't worth much. But when you pull it out, you begin to share it. It's the stuff that shapes people's lives. Let me tell you something I've learned. Treasures are uncovered all the time at flea markets, yard sales. Somebody will buy a box full of junk only to find a treasure there. Don't be surprised the value somebody else finds in your box. Don't bury your treasure. Let's pray. Father in heaven, I just pray that we would recognize that those experiences are gifts that you have entrusted us with. Father, may we understand and recognize that those things that we have done and those places we've been and those hurts and those failures all have value to those that come alongside. Father, help us to care enough to share what we have with those around us. Through Christ we pray.
Fall Down on the Fairgrounds is something that has been going on at First Capital for as long as pretty much anyone can remember. This is our 9th annual year of doing Fall Down on the Fairgrounds at the Harrison County Fairgrounds. Now, this is a great opportunity for you to serve, but it's also a great opportunity to bring your family out to have a free, fun day at a carnival-style event put on by First Capital Christian Church. There'll be free food, free music, free games, free rides for the whole family, and it's going to be a great time. Here's what we need you to do, though. If you could, this might be a little crazy, but if you could get one marker and write on your car window, fdfair.com, you can join us in letting the entire community know when and where Fall Down on the Fairgrounds is. Now, if you're curious and you've never been to Fall Down before, go to www.fdfair.com and it will explain everything. We really hope to see you there. Have a good week.